Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another video. What we're going to be doing today is we will be doing a breakdown of our Week 5 best bets for the college football season. We'll be looking at every top 25 matchup, breaking them down, seeing who wins, who loses, but we'll be focusing on the betting portion, the money lines, the spreads, and the over-unders. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I will make sure to respond. But every week, we go over every single college football game, and we also do the same thing for every NFL game as well. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed so you can follow along with us. Week 4 is in the books. We had some crazy games. Week 5 sets up perfectly. There's really good top 25 matchups, and teams are starting to get into conference play. There's good matchups, and these games are starting to mean a lot more. Let's go ahead and get things started running through these. The very first game we have, a Friday night game. We have Virginia Tech coming into this game at 2-2. This game's going to be on ESPN at 7:30. They will be visiting number 7 Miami Hurricanes, undefeated at 4-0. Miami has a 90% chance to win this game. They are 19.5 point favorites. The over-under here is 54.5. When you're looking at these two teams, Virginia, they leave a lot to be desired. They didn't live up to expectations starting out the season. They lost their Week 1 game. That was a massive loss to Vanderbilt. They haven't really picked up since then, but we know that this is a very talented team. They brought a lot of starters back from their 8-win team back in 2023. They have Drones at quarterback. They have Tootin at running back, closing in on 400 yards through the first 4 games. They have weapons there. They are coming in here. They average 29.5 points per game. They give up 22.8 points per game, but they do give up almost 200 rushing yards per game and almost 200 pass yards per game. So there's going to be opportunities for Miami's offense, and this is a really good offense. Miami has a top 10 offense right now, a top 10 defense. They lead the nation in sacks. They have the number 6 total defense in the nation. Right now, they're averaging 52.3 points a game, 410 passing yards per game, 200 rushing yards per game. They're only giving up 10.3 points per game. Like I said, they lead the nation in rushing. Virginia Tech does not have a good offensive line. So this game, it's going to be pressure. Miami's going to be blitzing nonstop. They're going to be getting sacks. They're going to be getting tackles for a loss. They have Cameron Ward, who as of right now is probably the Heisman frontrunner. They have Lyle. They have Martinez, they have Fletcher, they have Restrepo, they have Arroyo, Williams, George, Horton. There's weapons up and down this team. I have Miami controlling this game, controlling the pace for 4 quarters. Virginia Tech does get some garbage points in the 4th quarter, but I have Miami winning this one 41-20, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. The next game we're looking at on ABC at 3:30, we have number 21 Oklahoma sitting at 3-1, coming off of that loss to Tennessee. They will be on the road here versus 2-2 Auburn. You have Oklahoma on the road. They are 2.5 point favorites. The over-under is 45.5. And this is kind of an interesting game because both teams are in very similar situations. Both teams have had kind of a letdown at the quarterback position so far through the first 4 weeks. Both teams benched their quarterbacks last week at some point. Oklahoma benched Jackson Arnold. They actually rolled out freshman Hawkins. He got some reps in. Auburn, they actually benched Peyton Thorne, and they were going with their freshman Brown. So as of right now, we don't even know who's going to be starting at the quarterback position for both of these teams. So we're kind of in the gray here. We don't fully know what the starting roster will be. Oklahoma's the favorite. We know that Brent Venables has a really good squad here. The number 11 total roster according to ESPN, but Jackson Arnold has not worked out. He has actually been consistently getting worse since Week 1. Week 1 was a pretty good performance, but since then, it's been going downhill. Like I said, to the point that he was benched. They have Barnes at running back. They have Burks. They need to generate some type of ground game for Auburn. Peyton Thorne's like an 8-year senior. He's never looked good since that 1 year at Michigan State. He's been steadily going down for years now. They do have a good run game under Hunter. They have Lambert Smith at wide receiver. Oklahoma comes in here. They average 29 points a game. Auburn averages 36.5. And on defense, both teams have top 25 defenses. Sooners give up 14.8. Auburn gives up 16.8. We don't know who the quarterbacks will be, so it's kind of hard to pick this game. But as of right now, I'm going to go with Brent Venables. Although Hugh Freeze is a great coach, both teams are sputtering. But I think Oklahoma's offense roster is still good enough. Even if they roll out Hawkins or Arnold, they should be able to win a really close one. I have the Sooners winning this one 20-16, covering the spread, and I will be going with the under. It's probably going to be a pretty sloppy game on offense from both sides. Our next matchup is at 4:15 on the SEC Network. We have 1-3 Mississippi State on the road versus number 1 Texas Longhorns, undefeated 4-0. Longhorns have a 98.1% chance to win this game. Texas's roster is so loaded right now. They are 39-point favorites for an SEC conference game. Even though Mississippi State is not a very good team, that is a massive spread. To me, it's too big for an in-conference SEC game. The over-under is 62.5. Mississippi State. Shapen has been having a pretty decent season so far, but their offense isn't good enough, and their defense gives up way too many points. He is closing in on 1,000 yards. They have Coleman Jr. He's a pretty good wide receiver, but they're averaging 31 points a game. That's respectable, but their defense is giving up 30.8 points a game. So their defense gives up every point that the offense scores, so it's basically a wash there. But when you look at Texas, they have a top 5 overall roster. They're averaging 47.5 points a game. They're only giving up 5.5 points per game right now. A crazy good offense, a crazy good defense. Quinn Ewers did go down 2 weeks ago, but Arch Manning is filled in just fine. No matter who starts at quarterback, they're going to have the advantage line and weapons and coaching staff. Ewers, Manning, they have Gibson, they have Bond at wide receiver. There's weapons up and down the field. This is a team that's on the road to the SEC championship, the playoffs, and potentially the national championship. I have them rolling here 45-61. I do not have them covering the spread. Like I said, that's a massive spread for an SEC conference game, and I have them going under just barely. Then our next matchup at 11 p.m., a really late one on Fox. We have 3-0 undefeated number 8 Oregon Ducks. They'll be on the road versus 1-2 UCLA Bruins. The Ducks here have a 82.7% chance to win this game. They are 25.5 point favorites. The over-under is 55.5. Oregon started out week 1 really bad versus Idaho. Started out week 2 pretty bad versus Boise State. Finally got things right versus their in-state rival Oregon State. They had the bye. They were fully rested. Looks like their offense is actually starting to click now. Dylan Gabriel at the quarterback position. He was the Vegas Heisman frontrunner coming into the season. Hasn't played like it so far, but we know the amount of talent he has, and he is surrounded with talent. He has James, he has Johnson, he has Stewart. He has weapons at every single position. They have a top 10 offense. They have a top 10 defense. They just had to get gelled right. New quarterback, new scheme, new playmakers. Once they all get on the same page together, this is a team that's going to be competing not just for the Big Ten potentially, but the playoffs and the national championship. This is going to be a really fun team to watch because to me, like I said, as we get closer to midseason, they're going to start hitting the gas pedal and getting better every single week as the players start to gel. For the Bruins, they leave a lot to be desired. Garbers at quarterback is not having a good season by any means. Look at the stat comparison here. The Ducks average 36.7 a game, which is going to go up from this point forward. The Bruins average 15.3 a game. The Ducks give up 20.7 per game. Bruins give up 29.7 per game. This should be a boat race game. I have the Ducks winning this one 45-17, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. The next matchup is going to be at 12 p.m. on ABC. 2-2 Kentucky on the road versus number 6 Ole Miss, undefeated 4-0. Ole Miss, they have a 90.5% chance to win this game. 17.5 point favorites. The over-under is 53.5. Kentucky, they had that really close loss versus Georgia. That was their chance to catch the Bulldogs sleeping. They gave it away. To me, they got a little too conservative with their play calling. But right now, they come in. We know it's Mark Stoops, disciplined team, physical team. They're going to play solid defense. They're averaging 22.5 a game. They're giving up 12.5 per game. They have Enegriff as the quarterback. They have Key. For Ole Miss, this is a team, Lane Kiffin, they put all their chips in this season. They put everything they had into the transfer portal, into the NIL. They brought in the number 1 transfer portal class. This is the Ole Miss Rebels' chance to make the playoffs this season. If not now, then never. They're not just going for the SEC. They are also trying to get to that national championship. But they have the playoffs within their grasp right now. They're 4-0. They're 1/3 of the way through the season. They still have a tough schedule coming up. but this is a very winnable game. You have Jackson Dart having a Heisman-level season so far, closing in on 1,600 yards. You have Parrish Jr. closing in on 500 yards. You have Trey Harris closing in on 700 yards at the wide receiver position. They're averaging 55 points a game, giving up 5.5 points a game. This is a top 5 team easily so far this season. I have Ole Miss rolling here, 34-14. I do not have them covering the spread because I have them pulling their starters pretty early as we're getting into conference play. And I'm also going with the under here, but I do think that spread will come down as we get closer to game time. And our next matchup can actually be a pretty sneaky good one. On Fox at 12 p.m., 2-2 Minnesota. They'll be playing number 12 Michigan Wolverines, 3-1, coming off of that win versus the Trojans. They got their season back on track, but don't forget, Michigan, they lost Harbaugh. They lost almost their entire team from last season's national championship team, but they are the defending national champs. Very disciplined, physical squad. Only one starter back on offense, and their offense has been the big issue this season. We know that they're going to have a top 15 defense, very physical. Right now, they're averaging 24.3 per game. They're giving up 20.8 per game. But their pass offense has been atrocious. They beat the Trojans with 36 passing yards. That's fine. You won. Never apologize for a win. But that's not going to be able to work going forward. Whether it's Warren or Orgy, both have not been able to consistently get this team first down. They've been putting the whole team on their defense. But when you start playing some of these high-powered offenses, you're going to have to generate first downs for Minnesota. PJ Fleck always has a really competitive team. Right now, they're averaging 26.5 per game. Solid defense. They're only giving up 12.5. I have Michigan's physicality being able to wear down on Minnesota once they get to the fourth quarter. That's when they start running the ball downhill with Mullings. I have Michigan winning this one 23-13. I have them. They are 9-point favorites, and the over-under is 38.5. So I have them covering that spread, but I am going with the under. Then our next matchup at 12 p.m. on ESPN, number 20 Oklahoma State, 3-1, coming off of that loss to Utah. They'll be on the road here versus number 23 Kansas State, sitting at 3-1. They're also coming off of a loss. You have the Cowboys here have a 52.6% chance to win this game. But it's actually Kansas State who's the Vegas favorites. They're 4.5-point favorites. The over-under is 54.5. For the Cowboys, this was supposed to be their season under Mike Gundy. They had the Doak Award-winning quarterback coming back. They had Gordon, 1,700 yards last season, 21 total touchdowns. They had a top 10 offensive line. They had Bowman back for his 25th year of college football. They were supposed to be able to run the ball, throw the ball. Well, the passing offense has been fine, but the rushing offense has completely evaporated. That's what's led to this team not being able to achieve their full potential. Bowman's gotten so bad last week that he actually got pulled at one point. Yes, he's having a good season statistically so far, closing in on 1,200 yards, but he's not that accurate of a passer. You can't put the big game on his shoulders. They need to get the ground game going with Gordon. They need to be able to run the ball downhill. Kansas State is a very physical team. Last season, they were top 30 offense, top 30 defense. They have Avery Johnson at the quarterback position, the highest recruited quarterback in Kansas State history. He can run it. He can throw it. Yes, they lost last week, but they're going to be looking to be rebounding here. And they also have Giddens at the running back position, one of the top 10 running backs in the country. You have the Cowboys. They average 36.8. Kansas State, 28.8. I have Kansas State getting the win here at home, winning this one 30-27, not covering the spread. I am going over. I think this game could go either way, but it's going to be close no matter which way the game goes. Then our next matchup at 12 p.m. on Fox Sports, number 22 BYU undefeated 4-0. They'll be playing 2-2 Baylor Bears. BYU, 51.7% chance to win this game, but it's the Bears who are the favorites. They are 3.5-point favorites right now. The over-under in this game is 45.5. Baylor is the favorite because they're at home. It's not really due to their on-the-field performance. Yes, they're better than they have been in years past, but Dave Aranda right now, he's on the hot seat. He needs to get this team to a bowl game. They have to play a lot better. BYU, they're coming off of that emotional, massive blowout of Kansas State. That's what catapulted them into the top 25. How did they respond now that they're finally back in the top 25? They have Retzlaff at the quarterback position, closing in on 1,000 yards. He's also the leading rusher. They have Roberts as the wide receiver. Baylor. Baylor is averaging 29.8 per game. They're giving up 16.8 per game, but they're not necessarily I wouldn't put them as an offensive powerhouse right now. BYU, they're going to look to be able to throw the ball all over Baylor. Baylor right now, they're giving up 162.5 pass yards per game. That's not too high, but Baylor's riding hot right now. They showed what they can do to a very physical team, but this is a game where BYU needs to be on upset alert. They're 4-0. If they don't respond accurately, Baylor coming off of that really close loss to Colorado, they can catch them sleeping. They can win this game, but I think it's going to be BYU's ability to throw the ball that's going to get them up early in the game. Once Baylor tries to make the run back to catch up, it'll be too late. They'll run out of time. I have BYU getting the upset win here, winning this one 26-20. Spread not getting covered, and I'm going with the over. Then our next game on CBS at 3:30, 2-1 Wisconsin Badgers. They'll be on the road versus number 13 USC Trojans at 2-1, coming off of that really close loss versus the Michigan Wolverines. USC here at home, they have an 87.7% chance to win this game. They are 15.5-point favorites. The over-under is 51.5. For Wisconsin, their season was practically derailed. Tyler Van Dyke goes down in that massive game versus Alabama. First quarter, throws off a lot of the momentum that they had going on. Now they've had Locke coming in there throwing. He's played fine so far. He almost actually beat TVD out in the preseason as the starting quarterback. But that's a massive loss to have your starting quarterback going down. Their offense has not been clicking this season. They have a great head coach, Fickell. Phil Longo is the offensive coordinator. He's had the air raid here, but it hasn't really worked out. They're only averaging 21.8 points per game. They're giving up 23 points a game. So they're actually giving up more points than they score on average per game. And then you look at USC. Yes, they lost last weekend. How does Lincoln Riley get everyone's attention back on the field? Pick up on some of the physicality issues they had last week, namely on the offensive line. Miller Moss was getting hit too much. He was sacked 5 or 6 times this past weekend. They have to solve that. They have Marks at the running back position. They have Brands on special teams and as the wide receiver. This team is loaded with the best offensive mind in all of college football, calling plays for them. Right now, they're averaging 33 per game. They're giving up 15.7 per game, which is remarkable for a Lincoln Riley football team. Props to D'Anton Lynn. Completely revamped this defense. They are far better than they were last season. I have USC getting back in the win column, getting things back on track, winning this game 38-17, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. In our next matchup at 3:30 p.m. on Peacock, it's a shame this fun game is going to be on Peacock, but we have number 15 Louisville undefeated 3-0. They'll be playing number 16 Notre Dame at 3-1. Notre Dame has a 67.6% chance to win this game. 6.5-point favorites here. The over-under is 45.5. We know what happened last year. Notre Dame went to Louisville. Louisville curb stomped Notre Dame. Completely ruined their chance of getting in the playoffs last season. Derailed their season. How does Notre Dame get revenge this game? Can they get revenge this game? That's the massive story here. We know what happens to Notre Dame when they don't take a game serious. They lose at home. Just look at the NIU game. Marcus Freeman has to have everyone focus this game. You'll want to make up for last season, but Notre Dame has been sputtering this year. They had the big win versus the Aggies week 1, although that win doesn't look too good now. Then they had the massive letdown versus NIU. They did not have a solid win this past weekend. They need to get the offense going. Right now, Louisville can move the ball. Jeff Brom has a talented team here. He knows how to work the portal. He knows how to adapt his scheme to the players he has on his roster. They have Shaw having a great season. Brown, Brooks, they are averaging 47.3 points a game, giving up 11 points a game. Notre Dame averages 32.8 points a game. They give up 9.8 points. We know they have a top 10 defense under Al Golden. Denbrock has to figure out something with Riley Leonard. He only has 1 passing touchdown this season. I've said for the last 2 years, this guy cannot throw the ball. Anyone who thought otherwise is finally on my side now. The guy cannot throw, but you have to adapt the scheme to whatever his strengths are. Lean on that running game with Leonard, Love. I have Notre Dame getting some revenge, if you want to call it that, winning this one 28-23, not covering the spread. I'm going with the over. but I would not be surprised if Louisville wins this game again. I personally don't want to be anywhere near this game. Our next game at 3:30 p.m. on ESPN, this is going to be a fun one. We have 3-1 Arkansas Razorbacks. They'll be playing number 24 Texas A&M Aggies, also 3-1. The Aggies have a 56% chance to win this game. They are 4-point favorites. The over-under is 52.5. This is a 50-50 game practically. I would not be surprised if either one of these teams win. They're both in very similar positions. They both have the same record. They both have coaches who are trying to make a name for themselves. Pittman trying to keep his job. Things are looking pretty good so far. He has Green at quarterback. They're actually having a really good season. We know who their offensive coordinator is. He's living up to his name right now. They're averaging 40.5 points a game. They're throwing for a 3-0 run. They're running for 240. Very balanced, legitimate offense. They could easily be undefeated if they just held on to that game versus the Cowboys. And they're only giving up 20 points a game. Props to them. They're looking really good right now. We know that the Aggies have a talent advantage. This is a top 10 overall roster. They have Elko as the head coach, but it's a new scheme. A lot of new guys on the roster also. They're averaging 31 a game. Solid defense, only giving up 18.3 points per game. Connor Wegman goes down at the quarterback position, but Reed has stepped in perfectly. He's throwing the ball. He's running the ball. They're averaging 256 yards on the ground. That could be the difference here. Them keeping the game on the ground, sucking up clock. But I'm actually calling upset here. I have Arkansas winning this one 27-24. The spread not getting covered, and I'm going with the under. Then the next game on Peacock, also you have number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes 3-0, 7 p.m. versus 3-1 Michigan State Spartans. The Buckeyes here, a 92.8% chance to win this game. They are 24-point favorites. The over-under here is 48.5. We know who the Buckeyes are. They have a top 3 overall roster, and they have the best defense in all of college football. One of the best offensive rosters in all of college football, easily top 3. They have Will Howard, Junkins, Henderson, Egbuka, Jeremiah Smith. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They probably have the best 1-2 punch at the running back position. Both guys will get drafted next year. This is a very talented team, and they have the best defense, bringing back 8 starters from the number 3 overall defense last season. Spartans completely flipping their roster. They have Jonathan Smith coming in. They have Aiden Childs. He was a highly decorated quarterback coming out of high school. He has not played well this season so far, but obviously he hasn't played that much. So there's still a lot of room to grow, but they're having issues on offense. So the Buckeyes average 52.3. Michigan State gives up 25.5. Buckeyes only give up 6.5 points a game. Michigan State gives up 14.3. I have the Buckeyes cruising here. Might be close first quarter, first half of second quarter, but then they roll. I have them winning this one 38-13, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. Our next matchup at 7 p.m. on ESPN, 2-1 Stanford Cardinals on the road versus number 17 Clemson Tigers. They're 2-1. Clemson, an 89% chance to win this game. The spread here, 21.5. Over-under is 57.5. Stanford, they're actually better than they've been in recent history. They have a pretty decent offense. Their quarterback can throw it. He can run it, but he does have a lot of turnovers. Right now, they're averaging 31.3 points a game. Their defense giving up 20.7 points a game. But this is a complete coast-to-coast game. Stanford coming all the way from the West Coast, all the way to the East Coast, kind of an odd time frame there. Clemson, since the Georgia game, their offense has been playing a lot better. Yes, the competition hasn't been great, so look for the offense to continue to roll here. But all that you can do is beat the teams that are on your schedule. Cade Klubnik looks a lot better at the quarterback position in year 2 under Riley. They have Maffa. Right now, they're averaging 42.7 a game. They have a top 10 defense, but right now they're giving up 29.7 points a game. That's not going to be the final number once the season ends. That number is going to come way down by the time that we get to game 12. I have Clemson cruising here, winning this one 41-17, covering the spread just barely, and I would be going with the over just barely. This next game at 7 p.m. on Fox Sports, number 18 Iowa State 3-0 on the road versus 1-3 Houston. Iowa State 78.6% chance to win this game, 14-point favorites. The over-under is 43.5. Iowa State, great season so far. Matt Campbell, great coach. His teams are always physical. They can run. their discipline. Beck, though, having a great season at the quarterback position. Right now, they average 31 a game, 270 passing yards, 140 rushing yards. They're only giving up 9.7 points a game. Very solid physical defensive team. For Houston, they're not really good at anything. Willie Fritz, new coach, new scheme. It's going to take some time to rebuild this roster. They had a lot of transfers. Right now, Houston, they average a paltry 13 points a game. That's awful versus a really good defense, too. And they're giving up 21 per game. Look for Iowa State. This game might be close first half, but the physicality will wear down Houston. I have them winning this one 28-14. So that's a push right now. I also have them going under, but that spread's probably going to come down by the time that we get to game day. And then next game, the game of the weekend at 7:30 on ABC. Two undefeated heavyweights. Number 2, Georgia, 3-0. Coming off the bye week, they'll be playing number 4, Alabama, 3-0. Also coming off the bye week. Both teams had bye weeks. Both teams are rested. They had time to work on some of the things that weren't working, especially Georgia after that awful Kentucky performance. You have Alabama here. 66% chance to win this game. Georgia is a 2-point favorite, and the over-under here is 48.5. This game is going to be close. This is two of the best teams in the country, the number 1 and number 2 best rosters according to ESPN. This is basically a national championship level game. We know that Kirby Smart's had a lot of issues beating Nick Saban before. He has a pretty bad record versus Alabama, but hey, Saban's gone. Saban isn't coaching this team. This is our first round matchup of Kirby Smart versus Kalen DeBoer, Georgia, Alabama. This is a completely new rivalry matchup here. It's going to be fun to watch. We have Georgia's defensive-minded coach versus Kalen DeBoer's up-tempo, high-speed offense with extremely talented players on both sides. Georgia, Carson Beck, this team is loaded. Yes, they looked awful versus Kentucky, but you don't want to put too much into that win. They still won the game. They saw what wasn't working. They can work on that going forward. Right now, they're averaging 31.7, only giving up 6 points a game. Alabama, they're averaging 49. Yes, no true competition yet, but this is the competition now, and they're giving up 8.7. This game is the most 50-50 game of the 2024 season so far. It could easily go either way, and it really doesn't fully matter who wins this game because they could end up rematching in the SEC championship. Anyways, hey, they could play each other in the playoffs again. They could play each other 3 times this season. You just have to make the playoffs, but obviously you want to situate yourself to win the SEC so you get that bye week first round of the playoffs. I have Georgia winning this one. 24-20, covering the spread. I am going under. But like I said, if Bama wins at 24-20, I would not be surprised at all. I would not personally want to bet on this game because it's so evenly matched, and they're probably going to play again regardless. So this is just the first of many games to come potentially. But I have Georgia winning this one. But this game could easily turn into a shootout also. It could be a low-scoring, defensive-focused game. It could end up being a barn burner, and it's just whoever has the ball last. But it's going to be fun to watch. Then at 7:30 p.m. on NBC, number 19, 4-0, the Illinois Fighting Illini. They'll be on the road here playing number 9, 3-0, undefeated Penn State. Penn State has an 86.4% chance to win this game. The over-under is 47.5. If Penn State doesn't take this game serious and they don't respect the Illini's defense, they could drop this one at home. But we know they've had a bye week. They had some things to work on since that disaster when they almost lost the Bowling Green. They played well last week. They had the bye week prior to that. Looks like the offense has gotten back on track. They have Drew Aller. They also have one of the best 2 running back combos in the country. But the Fighting Illini, they're bringing in a top 10 defense just like Penn State is bringing in a top 10 defense to this game. They have Altmaier at quarterback having a great season so far. They're throwing for 233 per game. But Drew Aller has really been comfortable in this up-tempo spread offense, this new offense to Penn State. Franklin has a very talented team here. Look for them to set the pace for the game on the ground. It's Franklin versus Bielema. I have Penn State winning this one 30-17, not covering the spread. And I'm going with the under just barely. But still a win versus a current top 25 team. This next matchup at 7:45 p.m. on the SEC Network, 2-2 South Alabama. This team can move the ball. They can score. They'll be playing number 14 LSU at 3-1. LSU, 78.5% chance to win this game. 22-point favorites, over under 65.5. This game's going to have some points to it. South Alabama can score. Right now, they're averaging 48.3 points a game. They're giving up 25.8 for LSU. Nussmeier has been slinging the ball. He's top 5 passing in the nation right now. They're averaging 33.5 per game. Throwing for 321 per game. They're lighting it up through the air. We know LSU always has a very talented wide receiver core. They lost their starting running back, but they're still able to run the ball. They can throw the ball. The defense is giving up 24.5. Yes, it is better than last season's defense, but Blake Baker still has a lot of work to do on that defensive side. They gave up way too many points to the Gamecocks. They gave up way too many points to Nichols. I have LSU, though, continuing to win here, taking this one 44-21. So covering the spread, but I'm going with that under. Then the next matchup at 10 p.m., a late one on Fox Sports, undefeated 4-0 Washington State, just outside of the top 25 right now, versus new to the top 25, 2-1, number 25, Boise State. Boise State, a 61.7% chance to win this game. They are 7.5-point favorites. The over-under 63.5. This game has the highest probability to be a complete shootout to me, whoever has the ball last. Washington State, yes, the Pac-12 might have gotten dissolved and is getting put back together, but they are lighting it up. If they win this one, they're going to be in the top 25, no doubt about that. They're averaging 46.3 points a game. They're giving up 29.3. But Mateer at quarterback, he's top 7 in the Heisman odds right now. The guy's slinging the ball. The guy's running the ball. He is one of the best, most electrifying quarterbacks in the country. They lost Cam Ward, but he's completely picked up where he left off, and he's lighting things up, throwing for 3-0 run. They're running for 225, very balanced offense. But Boise State, they're also averaging 48.7. They're giving up 32. This game is going to be a shootout. If they score under 60 total, I would be completely surprised. Boise, though, they have also one massive weapon. Janty at quarterback. The guy has like 9 or 10 rushing touchdowns so far this season. Probably the best running back in the nation through the first 5 weeks. The guy's lighting it up. They're passing for 235. They're running for 311.3 yards per game. I think that's going to be the deciding factor second half when guys start to get wore out is the physical running game. I have Boise taking this one 35-32. Not covering the spread, but I'm going with the over. This game is going to be really fun to watch. Then our final game at 10:15 on ESPN, 2-1 Arizona on the road versus number 10 Utah, 4-0 the Utes. 77% chance to win this game. No respect for Arizona right now. They are 11-point favorites. The over-under is 47.5. Arizona, they have one of the best quarterback wide receiver combos. They have Fafita. They have McMillan, but outside of them, this team's pretty sparse. They come in here, they're averaging 30 per game. They're giving up 26.7 per game. This is not the 10-win Arizona team from 2023. That's sad because they lost Fish, but still a decent team, but they lost a lot there. For Utah, they average 33 points a game. They give up 13 points per game. The big thing about Utah is Cam Rising has basically not played the last 2 weeks. The last almost 3 weeks. It's been Wilson playing. He was really sloppy when he filled in for Cam Rising that very first game, but he's actually been getting better every single game since then. Looks like a legitimate player that can continue to lead this offense because without Cam Rising, Utah was completely stuck in the mud. Cam Rising, he's about 45 years old now. The guy's been in college for decades. He's hurt every season. He's hurt again. He was supposed to start last week, though, but then Wilson came out. Is he starting this week? I don't know. If he starts this week, to me, he's going to be on a mission. The guy's going to light it up. If it's Wilson, look for Utah to run the ball. They have one of the best rushing teams in the country. They're running for 207 a game. They're running for 235. We don't know who's playing quarterback yet, though, but Wilson has shown he can carry the team. But it's just, if it's Cam Rising, he will take them to the next level. I have Cam Rising playing. I have Utah winning this one 33-20, covering the spread. And I'm going with the over.